Dawson Rider Wiki.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Welcome to my review for the Hasbro Power Rangers Lightning Collection Collector's Line. This is Wave 3. This is supposedly supposed to come out in December, but they are showing up in a bunch of places early as per the Lightning Collection mandate pretty much. So it's a pretty interesting wave and exciting in a lot of ways. We're including Beast Morphers Blue, regular Mighty Morphin Red, Lord Drakkon from the comics, which I think is the most exciting thing, and Dino Charge Gold. Before we get started, let's go ahead and take a look at the accessories that they come with the most exciting bits. The extra hands. I mean, Blue basically just comes with one of each of what he has on, actually. He has closed fist, like traditional Figuarts stuff, and holding a weapon fists. And then he comes with the sword here. He doesn't come with one of the blasters, despite his hands looking like they're about ready to hold one of the blasters, which I think is kind of disappointing since Red came with that. Unique to him, weapon-wise though, or effect-wise, or whatever you want to call it, is the punching effect, which very much fits in with his powers, which is kind of nice. And of course, he comes with his civilian head, which I think actually is one of the best done ones. I mean, I've said this before, but a lot of them look like a cross between accurate and no soul, which is not true for this one, but I think this is one of the better looking ones for Ravi here. Then we have Jason, who comes with basically one of the same soulless heads that you got with the exclusive version and not the happy one. I was definitely hoping for something a little different. I understand it's probably easier for them, but it would have been nice to get like one of his shorter haircuts or something, or a different face, or both, just to differentiate it a bit. Like, I know that most people probably have an easier time getting this than the exclusive, but still, it would have been nice instead of some rinse and repeat. Then you have the two closed fists on him, and then the two just holding the weapon hands you have on him. Speaking of, you'll also have his singular power sword there, pretty much the same as pretty much the same as the one you won. You won this. No, I'm just kidding. You didn't win anything. Pretty much the same as the one that came with the dual pack, but it's pretty nicely painted. They did a pretty solid job on it. Lord Drakkon also comes with an alternate head, which is really cool. I think they did a good job on this one as well. And it starts reminding me of some of those like Star Wars ones where it's a character from like Rebels or the Clone Wars or something, and you're getting a human head for it, even though you've only seen it in like cartoon form or comic form. So I think that's really cool. I think they did a pretty good job on that. And I appreciate that it's actually a full-on different head sculpt with long hair, and they didn't just take the green Tommy head and put some like Vampire Diaries veins over it. Then, in addition to like the holding weapons hands, you just get two regular hands, this effect part, which I feel like I have 15,000 of, and then I'll get to it in a second, but you only have the Dragon Dagger, no Saba. I'll be talking about that in a few seconds here. For gold, you have the fists, which are on him, which are holding, and then you have his weapon, which I'll get to when I pick up the figure. Then you have one karate chop fist, one closed fist, and this cool lightning part, which makes a lot of sense given his character and the way his powers work, which is neat. Okay. So that is what everybody comes with. Let's go ahead and take a look at them individually, starting with the most anticipated one of the wave, MMPR Red. I'm just kidding, but we're starting with them anyway. So we pretty much have already gotten this figure in the form of the gold vest one or the gold armor one from the exclusive set. So either you have it or you've seen it around, and it's basically the same figure. When I do the comparisons to the others, I'll be showing it off. But it's a solid figure. It's not perfect. For whatever reason, they've had a hard time getting this helmet sculpt right. Like, very few MMPR Red Taranto Ranger figures have gotten the helmet exactly right. This one's in the neighborhood because it does have this shape, but it's still just a little bit off, because there's like this perfect balance between the odd shape and the roundness that they haven't gotten. It looks decent though. I mean, they did forget the white outline again. They didn't fix that from the exclusive release like a lot of people were hoping. There is one little paint mistake. I don't know if you can see it. There's a little blip of red paint, which isn't a huge deal, but obviously that's on mine. You might have a different paint mistake or no paint mistake. Everything else mostly looks fine. My other major nitpick though, or major or minor or miniature nitpick, is that you can see there's a color discrepancy. This is a darker red and a lighter red, and it bothers me a little bit, and I thought it wasn't in the exclusive one, but it is. You're just obviously not able to see it as much because he's covered in armor. But it's a very decent figure. I would say it's the weakest of the wave because I have some problems with the way it looks in terms of accuracy the most, and considering we already have gotten this figure at least in some form, it's obviously not as exciting, but you knew they were going to do a regular one at some point. I'm going to use him as the base for the articulation since they all pretty much have the same articulation, with the only difference being Drakkon's is maybe a little bit hindered by his shoulders and stuff like that. But you have a pretty solid range of articulation with the hinge joint here. It's a little stiff here, but you have a nice hinge and ball. You get a very solid range of motion there. You get your elbow joint here. You get your swiveling joint on the wrist where they could be swapped out. Nice ball joint on the leg. Double knee joint here. Then you have a nice joint here on the foot. They're all pretty stiff. That's not a euphemism, but like all these are pretty well done. Like I don't have any loose joint problems. And in fact, like some of them on here are almost a little bit too stiff to work with sometimes, but I'd rather have that problem than it be too loose. And then you have the hinge and ball joint here at the waist. Again, I really appreciate that you have both, so it's not just this ugly hinge, which is what I was worried about when the figures first come out. Like Spider-Man ones they do and stuff sometimes have that, and I really don't like that hinge, so I like you kind of have the best of both worlds, Hannah Montana style. And then a nice ball joint on the head, so pretty well articulated. You can get some solid poses in there. The only other detail maybe worth noting is the power morpher there, where you can see the Tyrannosaurus coin a little bit. I did used to like the Legacy ones a little bit more, where they kind of stuck out a little bit more, rather than feeling like it's painted on like this one, and it feels so small and just, well, painted on. Alright, now we'll take a look at a comparison to him to some of the previous Red Ranger releases. So here we have some of the other versions of Red Ranger figures throughout the years. I'm going kind of unsteady cam just so I can get some close-ups and stuff, so I hope you don't mind the horror movie footage. But obviously here we have our main Lightning release, basically identical to this one. There might be some slight color shade differences. I think this helmet seems a little bit lighter, but it still does have that tone discrepancy between the different ones. And here's the comparison to the Lightning version, or the Lightning Legacy version, I always do that, which is obviously taller, more muscular. It uses that weird hinge I talked about, and has that very weirdly stylized head that they used on it. It does have the correct white outlining though. This is a weird, like muscly 6-inch figure they did a few series ago, which I actually kind of liked these, a couple of the ones they did. I left the gold armbands on because it's meant to be an armored one. I hope you don't mind, but that's just kind of for a fun comparison of like, this is like the scale of muscle, like, thanks, Hydroxycut. And of course you have the figure art, which is a lot skinnier, obviously a little bit less tall. He's crouching here, but you can see in general, it's not as tall as the Legacy. Or Lightning. Man, I just keep mixing those up. It does, I think, have the most accurate head sculpt, though. I still don't think any of them are perfect, but I think Figuarts Red has the most accurate head sculpt, and he's about to fall over and ruin all this, so you're going into detention. And then here's just like the small 4-inch MMPR 2010 versioning, and then these are the like the action hero size figure ones, which, see, as you can see, like they're so inconsistent in the helmet styles we've used over the years. I still think the figure art one, who's in detention, is the most accurate, but this is probably second most of all the weird ones, at least of these ones I have here. Let's go ahead and take a look at Ravi. I'm just gonna let him fall because he's being a pill about it. So here we have Ravi here. I think this is a pretty solid figure. My only real complaint about it, well, I have two complaints, but only one complaint is about the figure, which is I still don't like these straps being separate. I feel like I'm taking off his bra, like it's weird, but I just don't like that. It makes it seem weird, and when you get it in certain poses, it gives them these weird shoulders, and I still don't feel like this was necessary. I feel like someone once pointed out to me, maybe it's because they're getting ready for the armors in the future, but that's probably going to be its own figure if they do that. So I just don't like this, period, on any of the ones we've gotten. And by any of the ones, I mean this and red. But otherwise, I think this is a very well done figure. I'll be doing the comparison here in just a second, but I think it's one of the best helmets for him because he's got a very weird helmet because it's very boxy, kind of hard to do. It's not 100% perfect, but I think it's better than the figure art because it's a little bit more bulky like it should be because it's square and round. The figure art is a bit too skinny. Same thing for the basic figure, and I think it's the most accurate one we've gotten, and I think they did a good job on the body details as well, kind of giving it that leather look. Like, it's overall a very solid figure, and I think one of the best Beast Morphers Blue and Blue Buster figures we've gotten. You do have some missing details on the Morpher there and stuff. My only other complaint wasn't about the figure itself, more so what it comes with, is that I wish he would have included the blaster to give some differentiation between him and Red, since Red already came with the sword. But I guess I kind of get it because people aren't always going to buy all these figures compared to the other ones since they're more expensive. But it would have been nice to have something a little bit different than the sword since I feel like he doesn't use the sword as much in the show. But let's go ahead and take a quick look at comparisons to his other version. We have Ravi's comparisons. Obviously in the middle there's Lightning, we got Figuarts over here, and then the basic Hasbro figure. There's obviously no Legacy version since this was Hasbro's first season. But like I said, I think this one in the middle here is the best. Like, this one has its merits and it comes with a gun weapon, which is cool. But you can see the helmet's just a little bit too skinny, which I think is the most noticeable on his suit because this is the roundest of the core 3 helmets, or at least like the bulkiest. So that one definitely has bonus points there. This one's honestly a pretty solid figure, but it still suffers from the helmet being a little bit too skinny and a little bit awkward proportions there. So I honestly think this is the best one of the 3, but it is pretty neat that we actually have so many different Go Busters Beast Morphers options when it used to be like just this in the vinyl figure, and we thought we were never going to get an adaptation. Okay, now let's move on to the leader of the Knights of Amber Beach. I'm also fully expecting a Comic-Con exclusive Knights of Amber Beach set. So this figure was a little bit controversial in the wave for a couple reasons. A lot of people nitpicked the gold, and of course one of the major complaints, which I stand by, I wish that the neck was painted the proper color. That is bothersome. But the gold, I would say the gold color on this is not perfect, but it's more accurate than you would think, because if you look at the suit in show, in the Kyoryuger footage, it isn't this really bright gold like Go On Gold, and it's not like a deeper gold like Beatbuster. It is kind of this more pale gold. So this is actually pretty accurate, and the camera almost doesn't even seem to do it as much justice as my eyes. So just look through my eyes. It looks good. I think it looks good. Not perfect, but I think it looks good. And then of course you run into that problem where in the US footage, they did make it even more pale, so it was like the urine tan ranger. So people were complaining about that. I think it could maybe be a little bit popped up to be a little shinier, but like I said, it's more accurate than you would think. I think they did a really great job at the head sculpt, because it is a thinner helmet sculpt, but it's not, you know, the most thin, because you still got to fit a head in there. But you have a pretty good balance there, and I think it's one of the most accurate ones we've gotten. And that just reminded me, I think I forgot to show his head here, which I think actually is the least accurate one. Like, it looks blurry. Well, there we go. It looks like a nondescript Amber Beach male. Like, it doesn't look as much like him as the others. Even some of the lesser ones, again, just look like they're missing their souls. That one doesn't look as accurate. But I think other than that, this looks pretty solid. Again, the gold's not perfect, but I think they did a good job on it. The silver looks nice here. I think that the balance on the helmet's pretty well done. There's apparently some QC issues with some people not having that do that. That's supposed to happen, because you can have it in or out of his hand. But this part was not painted, so watch out for that. But this could stand to be painted more. Same with this. It could stand to be painted more. It does open up to reveal slots for batteries you can't put in. Oh, sorry I called them batteries. I still get attacked in my Dino Charger video for calling them batteries, because as we know, Dino Chargers are based off of yogurt. So they obviously, why would I call them batteries? Sorry, a bit of a pent-up annoyance there. And then you have like his cape armor piece here, which is like a soft fluid piece like the other ones. And it seems like it could come off, but I don't want to test it because it is difficult. I'm sure if you forced it, you could, but I'm not going to. There's really no need to. But yeah, this figure isn't perfect. I think that's going to be kind of what this wave comes down to, is I do like this wave, but it's not perfect. And that's kind of what this figure is. It's not perfect. It's got lots of little nitpicky things surrounding it, but I think it looks pretty good. Like, I was liking this more than I thought I would, especially with the helmet sculpt. But let's go ahead and take a look to a couple of its previous versions. For Ivan, in addition to our Lightning Collection one, I have the basic 5-inch action hero version from Bandai, and the Figuarts Kyoryu Gold. I think this one probably is the strongest one. It is a little skinny and still in some instances. The helmet's maybe a little too skinny. This one might be a little bit better, but this one honestly isn't that bad. The gold is definitely more gold. You can see having these two next to each other, but I think the true gold of this suit is somewhere in the middle of these two scales. But this one I think overall does look a little bit better. It pops a little bit more. It's got more details. This one is like a totally different beast, totally different gold. At least it's more gold than the Dino Charge suit, but it's, you know, smaller scale, weird details. Like, this almost looks like if these guys got sick, that's what happens to them. Like, that's weird. But yeah, I think this is a stronger figure look-wise, even though I think I ended up liking this one more than I thought. But you can see the clear superiority in some of the details there on that. Even if it doesn't hold up quite as well in some instances, like the skinniness and the helmet's a little too skinny, but it's honestly not that bad. Okay, now moving on to probably the most anticipated figure of the wave, Lord Drakkon. I'm very pleased that we have this within the first year. This was one of the things I wanted most, because I love the suit, love the character, and I was really excited to see them showing us that they were going to delve into comic stuff. Right off the bat, I'm sure you noticed there's a paint splotch right here. That's unique to mine. Huge bummer, since this is won a case. So, I mean, no, I didn't win a case. It's like, it's not a lawyer. It's number one, a case. So it's the limited pack one, which doesn't make sense to me, because I know this is an obscure comic character, but at the same time, I feel like even casuals will be like, MMPR, the best! Look at this weird fan fiction form, let's buy it! So, I don't know. I don't know why this is the one per case. I would have maybe made it Ravi or something, just because I feel like this will still get the casual MMPR fans thinking it's a cool what-if form or something, but whatever. But yeah, the paint splotch is unfortunate, and that's still something that plagues this wave. I've been pretty lucky. Ever since Wave 1, the only one I've had problems with, other than this one obviously, was Magna Defender, but I've been pretty lucky. But ordering this offline is very hit and miss, and of course, since it's one per case, you can't be like with Blue, you could find 3 at Target and look through all of them and pick out one. But if I go to Target and see this, I have to go to another Target now unless they have 2 cases out. So that's a huge bummer. I would wish that they would fix that a little bit. Like, I wouldn't mind if it was here, but it's always on the helmet that bothers me. But let's look past that for a second, and I think they did a very good job at the helmet sculpt. It's obviously using some base molds they already had, but I think it's got very nice proportions. I think the crimson red here looks really good. The gold color they used all around also looks really good, and it contrasts off the green nicely, and it just really pops, and contrasts off the white too, for that matter. Pop's Diner, I'm just thinking about that, I don't know, that was random. But I think it really looks nice. Like, the gold has a nice shine, it contrasts to everything so nicely and flows, just to use the word again, it just really pops for me, and I really think it looks really good. And then you have his also mini painted little belt there, and then oh, he's got a green splotch on his crotch. We've all been there, guys, right? And then, of course, you have here the dragon dagger, which is the only weapon he comes with, which is pretty much the same one you've seen before. That is my other nitpick about the figure. Like, my only complaint about this figure itself is the splotch. Other than that, I think it's pretty solid, and I don't have any complaints about the figure itself, to be honest. I think it's very well done, and especially with the alternate head. But as far as accessories go, I wish he had come with a Saba. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me because this version of Drakkon never existed without a Saba, because he got these powers when he stole them from Jason in the Coinless world. And, I mean, would it be too much to ask for a dried Tommy Blood effect part on a broken Saba head? Is that so much to ask? Like, honestly, like, at very least, it would have been cool to come with a Saba. One with a removable head to showcase the Shattered Grid one would have been awesome. Probably not the dried Tommy effect part, or the dried blood Tommy effect part. Let's go ahead and take a quick look to his only other comparison. All right, here we have our two Drakkons, of course, with the only comparison being the Legacy version, which was literally one of the very last, if not the very last, Legacy Collection figure Bandai made as a Power Morphicon exclusive, and it came with a throne if you got certain details. Wow, way to embarrass me right off the bat. Okay, let's try this again. Obviously, I definitely think this one's some more superior. Like I said, the gold in combination just pops. The helmet's more accurate. The proportions on this one are weird. I honestly didn't mind this figure that much, considering I wasn't sure how long it would take us to get one of these, and I liked owning one in general, and I think it looks okay, but it's definitely one of those classic Bandai figures with the weird muscle proportions, and the helmet proportions are also kind of weird, although I guess it could depend on panel to panel how the art style is done, but definitely the superior pick here. Honestly, the biggest problem with this guy was his legs, though. He has super loose legs, that's why he kept falling over, which was a huge problem. So yeah, you can see the definite quality difference there. If you're gonna buy a Drakkon figure, definitely go for this one. One other fun thing before we move on, yes, this Drakkon can fit in the throne if you got it from Morphicon. He is a little bit small, though. Like, he looks pretty badass there, but he kind of feels small in it. When I was putting him in there, I'm like, oh wow, short man syndrome, but it actually kind of makes it look a little bit cooler. But yeah, if you have that throne and you're getting this figure, and you know, it works. Okay, so that is about it for my main review of this wave. Overall, this is a very interesting wave because in a lot of ways, I think it's one of the most mixed waves. I feel like I have a lot of little nitpicks that go throughout this set, but I also really enjoy this wave. Like, Red's honestly fine, he's the most whatever, but I think this is a very solid blue figure. Despite his problems, I think this one's pretty good, and Lord Drakkon is really great. So I think that if you're a Drakkon fan, I definitely recommend tracking this down. If you can deal with the no neck paint, I recommend him as well. And honestly, it's just, like I said, it's weird because I do have some nitpicks. I still wish that there were some things that they would streamline, but I think this does have some solid bits, and I ended up liking things more than I thought I would outside of Drakkon. Anyway, that's about it for this one. Until next time, remember to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell so you get notifications for all my videos. Helps me out a lot. Thanks, guys. Dawson Rider, signing out.